Yes, God has me out here in the rain, praying, clearing my head on a Saturday morning. Yep, cosmic rain, cosmic change. Yep, God has me out here walking in the rain to clear my head on an early Saturday morning. And we got cosmic DNA falling down from the sky. Cometary rain. That's why I'm not trying to have it all over me right now. But we got cosmic change happening right now. Hey, in the chat room. Thank God I had an umbrella. I'm probably the only one walking. But I'm taking a quick walk. I needed it this morning. How's everybody doing out there? These are highly energized woods. I've seen a lot of things in these woods before. Sometimes even on mushrooms. A long time ago. I saw literally dozens of like 2-foot. You ever see those old-fashioned Christmas toys where they would be like these elf-type beings with long, straight limbs with the elf hat, and sometimes they would have like bell sounds in them, and they would like be really elongated like limbs. I saw a whole bunch of like dozens and dozens of them running around really fast. Yeah, I've seen a lot of things in those woods before. Sometimes not even just completely sober. I think mushrooms and things like that do help you sometimes tap into it, but definitely don't need it. They're just normal conditions of the planet that I think we've been purposely shut off to. Smoky quartz will definitely help you with connecting to elementals and earth energies. Yeah, so we're going to be featuring Roger Spur on my Patreon. I've actually the last few days have been like not taking classes, but like I've been on Zoom with Roger over the last few days, just trying for us to get a basic like layout of what we're going to be doing and stuff like this, because we eventually want it to be like a literal school where you can get certificates and things like that, but we'll get the official school going once we get a good amount of people going. But for right now, we're going to be doing classes anyway for people, and we're going to be doing it more structured. You know, I'm helping them get a structure with it all, and I'm almost going to be there to challenge him as well. So, like, I don't like not in a way where, you know, like I'm being negative or putting him down, but like and an intelligent debate, because a lot of people have questions in academia. A lot of people don't agree. So I'm going to pose, questions that a teacher or some sort of scientist or, people in the academia world would want to ask him, or what they would challenge him with. So I'm there also to do that. So also, because when I do the classes with Roger, it's going to be strictly like sticking to the material stuff. But when Roger's not there, I'm also going to be doing my own classes related to other topics that I'm interested in and that I've been working on, that you guys are familiar with, that if you guys know my work. And we're also going to be getting into the copper and crystals and music as well. So, but with Roger, we're going to be doing basically physics, chemistry, biology, geology, and I'm gonna be backing a lot of what he's talking up with ancient information about cosmology, how some of the cosmology and mythology and ancient scriptures are in fact also describing what Roger's talking about. So, and you could, I guess, we've been getting some things together, like what I would ask him, during certain topics, because we're gonna make it more structured. Because Roger, he has so many thoughts and so many things that people send him. It's hard to keep it in a structured form and not get all over the place with all that information, because there's just so much. So we're gonna structure it, and we're gonna get it all set up so people can do a Q&A and actually learn. And we're going to start it with basic physics, basic chemistry, biology, and break it down from there. It's not going to be just about rocks and mud fossils and things like that. It's a much wider topic that goes from everything from mathematics to physics to chemistry to biology to astronomy, archaeoastronomy, and those are some of the subjects that I'll be adding into. Archaeoastronomy, megalithic sites, because those are the spots that my specific area of expertise, if you want to say. I've spent at least almost 30 years or more, in when it comes to cosmology and mythologies and sacred spots and occult history and religious history. So it's amazing when they all link up with what he's talking about. A lot of the ancient stories is definitely explaining things that people won't admit. I've interviewed some pretty famous like astronomers and things like that, and they'll admit that comets and asteroids and meteors carry life, like that the rocks and gases and ice and all the stuff that's traveling it, what a comet is, that they're carrying microbial and organic life. But for some reason they won't go further and say that the actual rock and meteor and asteroid or comet itself is also biological life. Things aren't just born in the universe as rocks, right? Even on this planet, there was a friggin' chemical process that made it to become all clung together with all these different elements that made it a rock. Something made it a rock. There had to have been some sort of chemical process that made it that way. So when you start to look into it, it actually makes perfect sense. And of course, I'm not saying Roger's 100% right with all the things that he's saying. Like, say, if he says one thing's a finger or one thing's a this, or, he might not be exactly right with everything he's saying with that, but he's definitely on the right track, that it is real life. And a lot of the ones that he's saying, that this is this body part, or this is that body part, I think he's a high percentage right. A lot of it is, there's a pretty high percentage that he is right. um so I definitely want to be able to help him feature that, and also add what I can add. And that's what we're going to be doing. So we've already, the last 3 or 4 days, I've been getting together with Roger on Zoom, and we've been already structuring what we're gonna do. So we might even do our first live show today, where it's a Q&A and all that. And I got water. Yeah, it was pouring rain for a little bit. Yeah, it started pouring rain just when I started praying too. I was just about to take that same crystal skull out again as well. That's like the crystal skull of the rain, man. It's my daughter's middle name too, Tana Rain. But she doesn't spell it like the Rain. We spell it different. We spell it with a Y. What you guys doing out there in the chat room? Thank you. Good morning. Thank you. Cindy, your package already went out. I don't know if my website sent the new tracking number yet, but it was already shipped. I sent you a special free tensor tool. And you said you liked the fluorite too, so I threw some of the fluorite, threw some special little pieces of fluorite in there. Yeah, if anybody makes a purchase on my website, I always throw in some free stuff, whether it's little crystals or stones, and it's definitely usually more than one. So I definitely look out. I would say like 98% of my customers are return customers. Of course, I don't have a lot of customers, because it's a small market, unfortunately, and people know who I am all over the world, but from my radio show and things like that, but not many people. It's hard. It's hard to out there, but I would say pretty much all of my customers are return customers. Like, they always come back. So I definitely take care of my customers, and very unique and one of a kind product. There's only like two or three places, only a handful of places in the world that you can get certain products like this. And with my website too, I know where the crystals are coming from as well, and there's special orders and special, they're products too that are last a lifetime. Even with the copper might get dirty over time, but you can clean it. And the crystals, they're once in a lifetime purchases. Like, there's stuff that can stay with you forever. And sometimes you might feel compelled to even give it to somebody. I don't really use tarot decks too much anymore. There's an old Italian one that I do like the Visconti Sforza thing. Some of the old ones. But where was I going with this? I forget. What the hell? There was a reason why I was talking about this. What did it have to do with? The crystals or something? Man, I forget what I was bringing this up for. Damn, there was a reason why I lost my place. I forget what I was talking about. There was a reason why I brought up the tarot cards. I forget now. Where were we in the chat room? Oh, that's what it is. Thank you, Cindy. When you said giving, you got me. Um, like when I was like a teenager, and maybe even in my early 20s, for some reason, I had a lot of people that, like friends I would meet, or people that would be in my life for a couple of months, and then like I wouldn't probably see them again. Like when I lived in California or Arizona, in those years when I was traveling, basically playing with my guitar, and I traveled across country, twice, playing music, and part of it I was with a band, and then part of it I was solo, and so I had I would say at least 6 or 7 people gift me tarot cards for some reason. It was happening a lot. Like every few weeks, I would have a friend. They'd be like, "I've been waiting to give this to a special friend that I meet," and then they would give it to me. you know, I've kept them all. They're in a. I got them in a special case, and they're all sitting in a special box at my dad's house now. My mom's gone, but I have them in a box at my dad's house. So I even have my mom's. My mom had a Ouija board from I don't know if it's from the 50s or 60s. The piece that glides across the board, I forget what it's called now. She had done something with that and thrown it out, where she just had the board, but for some reason she never threw the board, and she had kept it in the attic. And I came across it one time when I was a kid, and she was like, "Don't ever touch that, just leave it there." And then when I got older, she let me take it, right? I've never actually used it, ever. Never actually used that one. I did use another one that I had gotten on my own when I was in middle school. I've never used one since. Never will use one since. I was in about between 7th and maybe the summer before 7th grade to maybe 9th grade. Summer going into 9th. Maybe in the span of 2 years I used it a few times, and never again. I think the fallout from me even messing with it, and even messing with the stuff that I was getting into at that time, that's when I kind of really covered my Italian heritage, and my dreams were luring me to it. Things like that, things that I have been, I think, in prior lives, and connected to my DNA and my ancestry. It started to awaken in me, and I started to really research it, and I got led to certain things, and I got curious, and I was doing weird candles, looking in the mirror and seeing weird things coming out, and things like that, playing with the Ouija board. And I think the fallout of that made my teen years pretty troublesome. Definitely. I definitely had linked that together. Maybe not at the time, but definitely later on. Pretty intense. It was pretty intense. But yeah, my mom. I have my old mom's one somewhere, still saved. I never got rid of it. But I think she had a bad experience with it as well one time. But my mom was into all that. She was into not Ouija boards, but she was into anything that she watched on TV was like ghosts, stories about witches, and stories about stuff like that. And that was her. She was interested in owls and things like that, ghost stories. Yeah, the Lionsgate is like officially probably has already peaked and gone through, but that's why we have the celebration of the goddess Diana, which is now the feast of the Assumptions, of Mary, the same day. This is August 13th, right? This is related to the goddess Tana as well, like my daughter's name, and the goddess Diana. And Diana is depicted in a few ways. And sometimes she's depicted like with the deer next to her, but she's always depicted with a bow and arrow, right? And a certain time she's depicted with a dog, a running wild dog. So this is symbolically how they were showing that Diana is related to Sirius rising. Sirius being called not only the dog star, but the bow star. Freaking mosquito was on me. Right? So Diana, whose feast day is celebrated at Lake Nemi in Italy, right? Celebrated on Aventine Hill, even in Rome, right there, which is 19 miles from Lake Nemi. They had even done sacrifices at one time to her on Aventine Hill in the temple and sanctuary to Diana. Same with Nemi, the Rex Nemorensis and the sacred grove of Nemi. This is when the feast, August 13th. This is when, right after the Lion's Gate is closed, and we celebrate now as the energies of the Lion's Gate is channeled and brought through and distributed by the hounds and the bucks and messengers of the forest, her running dogs and running deer. Right? She distributes the energies that were brought through during the Lion's Gate of Sirius. Right? That's exactly what we're talking about. And people only in the know of the old ways would know this. Right? This is how stellar mysteries are passed down through families and genetics. Right? They make up these stories and symbolic pictures and things like that, so they can pass it around during campfires and things like that, and it gets passed down orally, but deeper there's an encoded message, and it's cosmic knowledge, it's cosmic consciousness, right? Sirius is the spot most believe where the soul goes at death, right? And through Orion's belt and Sirius, and through the Milky, ultimately throughout the Milky Way, into the Milky Way, right? That's where we're at here, and when the Lion's Gate rises with Sirius in the summer, that's when that fire energy is aligned with Earth, and the Earth energies in Sirius can be channeled and brought through. I even, through my research, and you guys can check all this information that I'm talking about, always posted on my Patreon. So, and it's at of course patreon.com/themysticalspiral. That's also where Roger will be. And yeah, I post all this information up on my Patreon, always with pictures, and it explained in more detail. And there's all different platforms. You can literally get most of the information for $2 a month. The higher platforms help out more, and you get actually access to being able to get free gifts and email readings eventually, and all those things. So, and now with Roger School, you'll be able to get access with that. So literally, between, if you get $8 a month or $2 a month or higher, whatever it is, it's literally like a price of a meal. Or less, not even, I mean less than a price of a meal for 1 month. And you have access to thousands and thousands and thousands of articles I've written already over the last few years. Thousands of posts. Not only that, I have proof of paranormal encounters with pictures and all sorts of things that I've put over the years. I mean, there's archives where you can binge watch all year and probably not run out. So much archives on there. My radio shows that I've done on Truth Frequency Radio too, posted up there. A lot of them, all sorts of things are posted up there. You know, so many articles that I put up there on a daily basis. Not to mention, I would say, I don't know, at least 50 to 100 or more book recommendations. I do book recommendations all the time. Well, I'll take a book out of my library and take a picture of it and give people the information about the book, whatever, and you know what I mean? So there's all sorts of things that you have access to on there. People love the book recommendations too. But I feel better. I was going through some emotions this morning. I had to come for a walk. Right when I got out the car, it started pouring rain. But now it seems to have passed. I gotta go to the post office too today. But I'm not sure if I'll be live on Truth Frequency Radio tonight. I think I do have a guest, but I haven't seen if and confirmed with him yet. If he's not gonna be on the, I might not do it solo tonight. I'm not sure. I've done it the last few weeks solo. I do have some interesting information to discuss, but we'll see what happens. Because I think I'm going to be doing some stuff with Roger too. I mean, especially the work, when you combine the work that I'm doing with the work with Roger as well. I mean, this is really life-changing stuff, everybody. Really life-changing stuff. Ancient Egyptians, they knew. They're talking about in their writings about the transformation in the gut. You know, somebody mentioned in the comments the other day about the author Judy King. Yeah, I found Judy King this way. She talks about it in different ways. I don't agree with everything that she says, but I do have some of her work because I found her through my own research. She's how I found Lambda Phage, in fact, because I had this like revelation reading the Book of the Dead where I saw Anubis. You know, of course I've been reading the Book of the Dead like you know, for almost 30 years since the first time I read the Book of the Dead and started reading it. I started reading it in the middle school the first time, literally. And when I always knew Anubis was the lord of the stomach, the lord of the intestines. This is talked about in all the, you know, books, right? He and he's manipulating, and he has his hands inside the corpse of the mummy, like embalming, but it's always with the stomach. Even though some pictures, it looks like he's almost a little bit higher, almost near the chest area. But when it's translated, what it says next to it is always, you know, the lord of the intestines, right? But he's also the lord of the underworld, Rosatow, which is Giza, that whole area there, right? That's the area is like, there's a microcosm of the macrocosm things going on, right? So, as above, so below. Same with the way man is structured. And I think Giza is laid out in a certain way that has to do with genetic engineering. And, you know, from reading books from Fred Hoyle and Professor Chandra, who I've interviewed, I've seen pictures of the icosahedron, and that certain viruses are in this shape. So from me reading chapter 1B in the Book of the Dead and seeing Anubis manipulating the stomach and how it takes the deceased to the Sahu to be infinitely incorruptible in the spiritual realm. Right there, I knew that was some sort of like quantum knowledge. Like, so Anubis is friggin' preparing the stomach, and I was getting these visions, right? And I was getting visions of comets dropping off like bacterias and stuff like that right on the like pyramid, and the pyramid collecting it and getting like lit up by the sun and all this stuff going on. Like, and I was drawing it and writing it and just toying with the idea. And you know, I realized that what they're talking about in chapter 1B, when they're talking about the worms of the deceased, that they live upon the body of the deceased, and that they're the worms of Rosatau, immediately, like, my mind exploded, and I was like, whoa, those are bacteria worms, like, all that stuff. And I started to research into bacteria of the stomach and our DNA, and how our DNA is related to viruses and different bacteria being added to the stomach. And just from me starting to research that, I found Judy King's work, and where she talks about the lambda-phage, and she has the test of Isis and things like this, which I've read. You know, a lot of it's technical and things like that, but she put out some other works where she does it in like a fiction level, where she relates it to like a baseball game and two baseball teams with relating to genetics and things like that. She has some interesting stuff, but I go on to it I come from a different angle. I've came from different forms, but it's interesting when people's research line up and things like that. I tried contacting her. I don't think she does radio shows, but I did try contacting her like about 6 weeks ago. But yeah, I even left a message at the university that she apparently used to work out. But yeah, she definitely, I don't know if she talks about how she first came across, you know. I didn't read her personal story about how she first came across the information, but I know the minute that I first came across realizing that it was bacterias and DNA being added that way to the stomach. And then I started to see a lot of the Anubis pictures, you know, were lining up to what I say. Of course, you know, they'll tell you right in ancient Egyptian writings, and doctors will tell you, you know, occult symbology as well. The jackal is known to be a symbol for like digestion and having like superpowers digestion, you know. And so the god of digestion basically being Anubis. I mean, that's pretty obvious to me now, right? Literally the god of digestion, and in the gut is where you can have transformation. They could transform your personality, your everything through the gut. And especially if you have a bacterial virus or a bacterial phage that can inject DNA from another species into your gut. You know? And this is what's happening with Anubis. He's adding some sort of genetic information and data to the intestines, so at the body, so the body of the deceased pharaoh and king, the chosen one, you know, because they're not doing this for no average citizen. There's knowledge, and I think Giza was laid out to beam, you know. So let me not get ahead of myself. I think Anubis, what they're showing is, you know, DNA being added to the gut. So at the moment of death, the body can transform, and the body, mind, and soul can all transform into the quantum environment and retain its knowledge and transform into something higher than itself, into infinitely corruptible beyond matter, into a quantum environment, into light. And I think the Giza pyramid was literally laid out like this, and that whole Giza plateau, to beam the soul to the Sirius system and into the cosmos, which might be the entrance to the Stargate to heaven, if you want to say. And during the Lions Gate is when we can pull in knowledge of, you know. I even think the Giza, the Giza pyramid is made, and I think even Judy King talks about this in her work. They're not going to say some of the things I'm saying, but even Robert Bauval, a lot of the people that have gone deep into the Giza pyramid, they'll tell you it's pretty much known. I mean, you could type it in Google and Google will show you. Way before Judy or myself, people have known that the Giza pyramid is made in an icosahedral pattern, the same as some of these bacterial phages and these pyramidal patterns. And I think that the top of the pyramid, even the top of some obelisks, were made this way. They were made along, I think, beneath the ground of the Great Pyramid. There might be the spiraling tail, almost like a long, straight, conical tail underneath it, just like a bacterial phage is designed. And at the top of the bacterials, and the top of the icosahedron is where the DNA is carried. Then they have these long tail, conical tails that lead to the bottom where these injectors are, where they can swap genes. They can inject the genes, and I'm pretty sure. And the way they get activated is by getting irradiated by the sun. And the Book of the Dead describes this, when the body is prepared and left overnight. When the solar disk rises in the morning is when the soul transforms into something higher, because it's getting the bacterial DNA, they're getting irradiated by the sun when the sun first rises. And I think this is how Giza was designed. So when it gets irradiated by the sun, boom, shit gets beamed. And obelisks were set up this way as well. The head of the obelisk, right? The head of the obelisk was always made with some sort of shiny gold or metal. Why do they do this, right? They do this for the flash of the sunrise. The flash of electrons, the flash of photons, whatever it is, plasmic light, right? Light energy, the flash of light. When the sun first rises and peaks over the horizon, or however you describe it, it'll light up that. So if the obelisk is made out of red granite, right, and then the top of it is made out of like gold or shiny metal, when the flash of the sunrise first hits it, it's going to make that top of the obelisk glow like a laser beam, right? That flash of dawn is when it activates and beams that cosmic energy to wherever it's directed to in the cosmos, right? This is what obelisks are. And obelisks are even talked about in ancient writings as petrified rays of light, right? They used to be even part of the Ben stone. Yep. I think somebody's cosmic consciousness and being can be transported that way. Yeah, this is how I first came across all this information, because I started writing a book about obelisks about 3 or 4 years ago. And then that book sort of transformed, you know, my original goal was to write a short book. Not go. I mean, I was going pretty deep into detail, but I was going deep into detail on subjects about the obelisk that I felt like nobody has ever done before. And there hasn't been too many books about obelisks. I own every one of them, I think, that's ever been written about obelisks. There's about maybe 12 or something like that. And I think they started in about the 1800s, or maybe a little bit before. I think about the 1800s. I have the ones from the 1800s to even the most recent one that I could find was by that guy David Hatcher Childress. Right, that was the last person that I could find. So originally I set out to write specifically about the obelisks that were taken from ancient Egypt and brought to Rome. And that narrows down the category of how many books have been written about that. There's been about maybe 3 or 4 books written about that throughout all of history, which is not a lot, about the obelisks that were specifically taken from ancient Egypt and brought to Rome. And different places throughout Italy and even the world. I was going to be talking briefly about the one in New York and in Paris as well. Or is it London? I think London. They have one in London too. But yeah, so that sort of evolved into the sacred sites. I was talking about more. It went beyond just the obelisk. I started talking about the sacred sites all over the planet on different power spots. And it just started to expand and expand. And then I started to realize some of it was related to Marian apparitions and UFO encounters and all of this stuff. So it kind of expanded and kept expanding till I figured a whole different it became a whole different outlook of what I should write about. So now, I finally have my own I think of my own perspective to go on. That's pretty interesting, and it sort of evolved over the last few years. And I've gotten so many books of different people and different like that from my research, because I have to reference. There's many things that I reference from other people. So yeah, I came across Judy's work, and of course, when it's into Sirius, I've been influenced by some of Robert Temple's work on the star Sirius. I have a lot of Robert Temple's books, actually. Crystal Sun, The Oracles of the Dead. He has a few of them. The Sphinx Mystery, But yeah. Nice to have you here live. Yeah, Ben Stone is like the original obelisk, basically. I mean, well, maybe not the original. I don't know what came first, but it's basically similar. Ben's more like the Babylonian area, Mesopotamia, maybe even Egypt too. But that's even where these sentient stones. This is where the name Bethel actually comes from. Bethel tends to mean house of God, but you also have Betlos. Sometimes spelled Baitlylos, Baitlos or Betlos, or Betleon sometimes. These are literal sentient stones they talk about. So that's even where Bet-El or Betlon or Babylon, I think, Babylon is like the gates of heaven, the stones of heaven, the stone gates of heaven, or, this is where these words even come from. The spot of quantum, the quantum world. And this is where viruses come from. Viruses, the microscopic bacterial DNA. This is the first form of life from the quantum experience, the micro beyond physical, right? I think it's the first form of life, the most ancient form of life that comes that way. And it's brought out through the universe and seeded through the universe through comets. And I know I'm right with that. It's actually, some of it's been proven. I just take it to a deeper level. And it's crazy because, like, it blows my mind how, like, I'm struggling in life, and people have won things like close to Nobel Prizes for saying that very statement. And I came to it on my own way before I even knew who some of these people were, right? I was having just these visions coming to me, thoughts, theories. This is where theories come. People don't admit it in science. People don't admit it in the medical community, in the science community, in academia. But where do you think people's theories in quantum physics come from? Where do you think people's information come from when they have these mathematical theories or quantum physics theories or all this thing? Where does that information come from? It comes from bursts of thought from these people, whether they're scientists or physicists or whatever. They have their degrees and they're respected in their own fields, but they don't say, oh, it was telepathically shown to me, or I received it through psychic. But that's exactly where it's coming from. Don't you realize? They're sitting there, right, quiet in their office, and they're getting a friggin' burst of thought where they get a theory or mathematical problem come to them, or they get some sort of, burst of imagery that comes to them about the universe or comets or whatever. They're connecting to some sort of psychic data, right? And it's related to their own human experience and cosmic journey. That's why there can be distortions, because I don't think it's everybody just has access to the infinite knowledge. There's infinite knowledge within the cosmos. There's cosmic law. What's reality out there, right? But I think our human experience, because we are humans tapping into this, that our human side, because how chaotic it has become, is connecting to this information, and therefore sometimes there is distortions in the way we interpret it, right? And how we're translating it into English and trying to say it, right? Of course there's going to be distortions, of course. That's how I feel. But where do you think these bursts of thought come from? Where do you think when Tesla would get these little bursts of diagrams that would come to him, these holographic images, where he would see like these 360-degree view of something in his head, and then build it? Where do you think all of a sudden a musician gets a song from out of nowhere? Where do you think this is coming from? This is thoughts getting, beamed to us cosmically, right? There are also places that are transmitting beams of information that are related to our creativity. And I said this, and I said it was related to the Kuiper Belt, and that there was some sort of structure in the Kuiper Belt. And I first reported this on my website in August of 2015, when I first wrote on my page, Roz Music, The Felines and Megalithic Secrets. Still up there. Was when I first started writing about what I felt was in the Kuiper Belt. And now NASA has literally found it. Hey, morning. You know, when Roger contacted NASA and JPL and they responded to him and oh, we're going to follow you on YouTube now. I had done the same about the Kuiper Belt. And that's basically the response that I finally got to them. Eventually, I got a response from some of the people that I was emailing. And they say, wow, that's really cool. We're going to, you know, I'll follow your channel. So I stopped contacting people like that. You know, I first started contacting, you know, certain universities, certain places that had articles written about certain things that I can prove I've mentioned beforehand. Like, sometimes it's a little bit too broad to get specific, but check this out. I have videos on my my YouTube. I'm not saying this to brag. I'm just going to show you how this shit, you know, it's kind of wacky how people do get suppressed about this too. But on my, you could go on my YouTube right here. I could find a video if I look for it, but the title of the video was something like this: Green Comets, Green Comet coming, plagues, and Critica, or something like that. Critica is another name for the Pleiades. All right, so I was talking about the Pleiades or something, but I was talking about a green comet that was coming, and I felt like it might be related to bringing a plague or a virus or a flu on this planet that we've never seen before, right? And this I posted I posted several videos about this. The one I'm talking about now was in May of 2018, I think. May or April of 2018. I got to find a video, but it was a green comet somewhere. I remember it specifically now because somebody had emailed me. One of our listeners out there, who I forget who it is, but whoever sent me that email, thank you for pointing it out to me, because there's several. I forgot about this one until, you know, one of our listeners out there, one of my supporters had pointed it out to me. And this one was in May of 2018. But, it's, you know, I think that's when it really started. I would say starting almost at that video, so like April or May of 2018, all the way to November of 2019. I was talking about, like, yo, I'm getting this feeling like plagues are coming. And it's related to something traveling in the wind and, like, reptilian type energies, right? And people started to tell me, oh, you're spreading fear, or you're being negative. I'm like, no, you know what? That's just the kind of stuff that I'm feeling, though. I'm not trying to be, you know, promote doom, you know, nor would I want to try to bring that on. I mean, Christ, I have a young child. Like, why would I want that to happen, right? But that's the stuff that was coming to me and the stuff that I was feeling. So I can't just pretend I wasn't getting that information coming through. And I was saying it. I mean, shit. I have the proof in these videos. So, not with that specifically, but some of the things that I was talking about specifically, like objects, remote viewings I was doing, and certain things that I was getting coming to me that were possibly in the Oort cloud or in the Kuiper Belt or in certain places throughout the universe, right? You know, I would see these articles come out from well established and respected organizations and schools, and they would be talking about exactly what I mentioned. I mean, almost to the T. And I contacted a few of them, and some of them actually respond. You know, some of them respond, because if you look at the articles and if you research some of the things online, you could find contact numbers for some of these people or email addresses for some of these people. It's hard. You just got to look. And I did it a few times, and I stopped doing that. But I got some answers, and some people said, you know, mostly the majority of the people that are willing to respond, they responded because they're open to it in some capacity. The ones that aren't they just don't respond. But the few that you do get a response from when you do something like that, it's basically they're open to it, but they're not willing to go out in public and admit it. So usually their response, I've found, and I've even told this to Roger, and he's found this as well, and he agreed with me. They'll usually say, that's very interesting. You can't rule it out. It might be possible, but of course we can't prove it. It's an interesting theory. And that's the majority of the people that are willing to respond. That's basically what you get. And the fact that I have no real history in quantum physics and never took any classes on physics or anything like that, and or astronomy or astrobiology or anything, all these interesting subjects, some of the stuff that I'm coming to, that came to me that I've mentioned, I didn't even know was possible, that it can happen, right? I just said it, because that was the knowing that came to me about it. I didn't even know that it was like physically possible for the universe for some of these things to take place. And then I would see the article where they're describing it. I'm like, it would be like, oh crap, man! See, that's proof that it can actually even happen. So let me see what you guys are talking about in the chat room. Yeah, the brain definitely is. No, I think scientists do. Scientists, the ones, and I said specifically like the ones in quantum physics, and the sort of fringe of science, they're willing, and I think all of them do. I think everybody that's highly intelligent, they're just not willing to say it. They have to conform. Even, I would say a majority of the scientists out there, even doctors, I would say that a lot of the stuff that they say, to the public and to everybody out there might not be what they truly believe. It's what they have to say to keep their job and to save face. It's what they have to say to get their paychecks. So unfortunately that's the world we live in. And I find the same in academia. Outside of all of that, is that they won't admit to it in public because they've been told to you're given a curriculum. Right now, they have to basically, you're an outcast if you don't talk about the creation as the Big Bang. You're seen as a wacko. And they don't even know if the Big Bang's for sure. Fred Hoyle, Sir Fred Hoyle, he basically got booted out of the community, and he's one of the most well-respected, smartest people and people well ahead of his time. Right? He should have gotten a Nobel Prize. Many people thought he had a Nobel Prize. There's books I've written where people actually were misinformed, has made a statement in their books. Most of their book is completely right in some of the stuff they're talking about, but then they'll make a statement that Fred Hoyle got a Nobel Prize. Sir Fred Hoyle never got a Nobel Prize. It was basically taken from him because of his opinion about the creation theories. He had this theory called steady state theory, and he also was the one talking about panspermia. Him and Professor Chandra that I've interviewed on my channel. Why am I still holding this umbrella? It's not raining anymore. My hand is like killing me. My arm is killing me. I'm holding this friggin' huge umbrella. It's not even raining like a friggin' moron. But yeah, Fred Hoyle, he because he stood his ground and he wouldn't conform to the curriculum that they wanted him to conform to, it cost him a lot. I still able to keep a career and provide for himself, but man, he was treated very unfairly, because he stayed to his, he didn't want to conform to what everybody was telling him to conform to. But he's also the one, that's how I really got interested in Professor Chandra and Sir Fred Hoyle, because I feel really connected to it. That's I feel is, if I die today, that I feel is one of the, besides the birth of my daughter, that I feel is one of the most, even though I'm not recognized for anything associated with it, but that I feel is one of my greatest thoughts and achievements, because before I really ever really read any of Sir Fred Hoyle or Professor Chandra's information, I had my own visions and thoughts about what comets do, and how they seed worlds and can destroy worlds, and how they're written about in the Bible in many places that people that don't even realize, and all other places. I had my own views, and their work and several others out there basically proves what I came to on my own way before I even knew these guys existed. So that to me, and some of these people have made careers on these theories, and I'm giving them out on YouTube and shit. It's pretty funny. Yeah, so it pretty much blows my mind that some of these guys, because they have a degree and all of this, when they say something, it holds so much weight, that their whole career could be even based on it, and their status. That's how much people are respecting what they say, and how much is on the line. But there's also a line that a certain curriculum you're expected to follow, like an unwritten line, and that's, you got to go with the majority of what people accept. If you don't say what the majority, most people are not willing to take that risk. And for me, there's no question about taking the risk. To me, you always got to hold your ground. And that's the reason why I've always ended up in the position that I'm in right now. Right? I could have conformed a long time ago and made a lot of money. But I've chosen the hardest way for myself always. I don't know why. Even when it was like, even when it's I don't know. It would just happen. I'm starting to learn a little bit better with that as I go on. Making decisions for the better good of everything. Now that I have more people to worry about than myself, it's a little bit different making of a process. But yeah, that's how I've always ended up in the position I've ended up to, because I don't conform. And even in high school, I was voted most individualistic. Yep. I was nominated for a lot of other things too, but man, I had a lot of, people always just when you have certain energy about you, I think, and I'm not bragging or in any sort of way, believe me, it's a blessing and a curse, and I never had a huge ego about myself at all, but people always gravitated towards me my whole life. Like in school, I had a lot of friends. I had like a lot of girls that like always gravitated towards me. Some guys hated me because of it. Some guys, I was really close to. But I had a lot of friends in all categories, all crowds. Every crowd I was accepted in, and I, people like sort of gravitated towards me in some way, And I think some people there would be a few people that would respond to that and be haters. But most, 99%, there would be a few here and there that would, for some reason, not like me, but they never even had a conversation with me. Most of the people that ever were negative towards me, or I heard that didn't like me, or they talk shit about me, most of them have never met me or spent any time with me. About to go home, get some breakfast for my family. Thank God I cleared my head though, because I was feeling emotional this morning. Story of your life. Yep. Yeah, that's true. How do I feel about stellar theology? Well, that's my whole deal, man. You know, if you looked at, my whole background is related to the stellar mysteries of our DNA encoded within us, and cosmology, and passing it down through certain symbolic stories and things like that. You know, it's where our life is all related to cosmic consciousness. The stars, you know, the space to me is the thought network of God. You know, those are what you see in space, like the twinkling of the stars, comets and meteors, showers, all this stuff. Those are like the neurons and the dendrites of God. Like the neural network of God. You know, that's what's going on. And our universe and our galaxy is just one little section of God's mind. That's how I look at it. And we're part of it. You know, our planet is on an energy spot inside of God's mind, inside of God, the universe. And his mind is ever expanding. That's how I look at it. I never heard anybody else really put that way, but you know, when I started, that's my own personal little explanation of it. But I've explained that to, you know, say people I've friends of mine, we sat and smoked a joint or we talk. This is how I explained it to them. You know, or people that we get to, like, talking about like how we think creation started and all of this. This is how I explain it to them too. And I've come to this conclusions from thoughts I've had, from experiences I've had, from visions that have come to me, and also from my research. You know, when I start to read ancient religious writings from Kabbalistic literature, like rabbinical literature, you know, African literature, all these different places, you start to see that they talk about like God's brain being all these universes and worlds, right? They're describing it. I definitely have come to the conclusion that that's what it all is. It's all related to a cosmic consciousness. You know, your thoughts, your personality, your energy, it's all linked to the twinkling of the stars. Everything is all linked. Your, like, emotions of the planet is linked to disaster of the planet. It's linked to the energy of the planet is linked to storms. You know, it's everything, and it's the same way cosmically. No, I go to ancient texts from the West. Wow. You think so? Wow. Because I talk about Hindu, I talk about Japanese, I talk about Cambodian, Thai, the Naga. I talk about East all the time. I have my website has the Naga files, where it's nothing but stuff from the East. Why would you say that? Only from the West. I don't think I only talk about from the West. I always talk about Mahatmas, things like that. Vedic. Always talk about Vedic. There might be a few things. Well, what's in contradiction to Vedic astrotheology? Some of the things that might be contradicting is because they're at different edges of the planet, right? So they have different, their cycles are different, right? So they're gonna have different things like that, but they're basic stories of deluges and world catastrophes and things that have experienced on a basic worldwide, uh, you know, system, not just regional. Because of course, when you have regional areas, they're going to have different regional myths and different regional cosmologies, because it's different reasons, and they're looking at the sky from a different perspective, right? But their basic overall cosmologies and theologies when it comes to like global floods and global species that were on this planet and the gods, the description of some of the gods and some of the knowledge of the gods, I mean, it's spot on, lines up. So show me where you're talking about, Armani, where you're talking about there's a in all capitals contradiction. Yeah, but you're just making a statement. You're not giving me specific details. Show which, if literally all of it is different. Give me one part. Give me one example.